Hello, everybody. I want to talk a little bit about weight aids today and how we can tune into how we're using our body weight and our different parts of our aids system more consciously so that we can help our horses to balance themselves and to understand what we want directionally and, longitudinally as well as, laterally in the way that we're influencing them. And I think I wanted to start by going over the parts of our body that can actually have an impact on our horse's understanding of where and how and what we want to do, want them to do things. And I want to start with our stirrup, weight in our stirrup, right? We can do this feel when you just stand on your horse, or your horse is standing and you're sitting on them. You can just feel how ideally you should have an even amount of pressure that you can feel under the ball of your foot. And, when you're going straight and when you're going walk, left, right, aids, trot, both at the same time, canter, inside leg a little bit more forward, outside back, scooping notion. But in all three gaits, we can emphasize by just stepping a little bit harder into one or the other of our stirrups, the weight or the direction or the balance issue that we're trying to fix for our horses, right? So that's one part. The next part is our seat bones, right? We sit on the horse, and it's somehow a miraculous concoction that nature just made us so that we can fit so evenly onto the structure of the horse. But a lot of people aren't really quite even aware of how to feel their seat bones. So I want to invite you to just lift your knees up and away from the saddle, like I do right now, and just tune into what do you feel. You should be feeling something in your seat bones. And if you don't feel it on your saddle, try it on a hard surface chair first. The seat bones have a really huge impact on how comfortable your horse is, how they move, and how they understand what you want from them. And so the seat bones, of course, are locked in with our pelvic structure. And I always say, try when you start out to find your neutral spine on the horse. For those of you who have ever done Tai Chi or any kind of martial arts like that, they know that the little tiny bit of a tucked in tailbone is part of a neutral spine. And if you just tilt your pelvis back a little bit, almost as if you want to sit on your jeans pockets a little bit, I always call it that. It's sort of that feeling, not slouching like this, but just a little tuck in. That already distributes the weight on your horse's back muscles much more softly. Rather than sitting up straight like this, you're going to poke down like with two high-heeled shoes onto these very sensitive structures of the back muscle groups, right? So a little bit of neutral spine. So now when you're in neutral, now you have the choice to, use your upper body to go forward or backward a little bit on your horse, right? If you lean back, even a tiny little bit, you're going to start feeling your core muscles. And the effect that has on your horse is that it actually frees up their shoulders. Like if in any transition upward from the walk to the trot, or from the halt even to the walk, trot to canter, if you can remember just to in the tiniest little way to shift a little bit back, so that when your horse steps underneath themselves, they can lift their forehand up. The shoulders can come up in front of you. In the canter, it's the most beautiful feeling when you understand that, and you collect your horse first a little bit, and you just shift a little bit your weight back and gives the up transition cue, and the horse actually can come and lift up their front part into the air, and you have the most beautiful transition into the canter because you didn't get in the way, right? And our human instinct is always, when we want to go faster, we want to lean forward, which is, when we're running, that's the go-to mode. We're slightly, in speed mode, running and pedaling forward. That doesn't help the horse though, right? So always remember our upright vertical axis. When in doubt, when your horse slows down and you're trying to go faster, it may have to do with you leaning just even a little bit forward in front of your actual vertical, right? And so another thing to think about or to remember is, how do I find my vertical, right? The easiest for me is if we take our legs out of our stirrups and we just kind of let our legs dangle down, breathe in, and just have the feeling as if somebody pulls up our head as if it was a pear by the stem. And that whole feeling of being upward without, squeezing with your butt muscles. Just sit, breathe, roll your shoulders back, and here's your natural vertical alignment, right? And then you put your feet back in your stirrups. You feel, when you do that, you might feel a little bit of your core muscles because you have to lift up a little bit. So now you have this beautiful alignment. So now if you shift from forward to backward, if you understand that sensitivity of the horse, now we're going to start talking about left-right a little bit, right? And I'm going to position Thana a little bit more straightforward so you can see more easily what I'm talking about. So left-right, the idea, again, same thing, stepping into the stirrup, or left-right without mangling too much and, using too much of your body. I just demonstrated with my body a little bit more than I wanted to, but it should be subtle, right? When you're rising in the trot and you're stepping a little bit more into one side or the other, you will find a really great response in your horses. If you have a horse that drifts into the circle when you're posting the trot, step into your outside stirrup every time you rise a little bit more. And find the difference and try not to fix it with your hands, right? So that is one of the really major things. The horse will always follow the weight that you're putting where you're adding it, right? And then, of course, when you sit the trot or you sit in the walk or in the canter, the other really important part that you want to remember is when you apply a weight aid and your horse doesn't react to it as favorably as you were hoping, make sure that you're not collapsing in one side. In your best effort to want to put weight more onto the left side, for example, of your horse. A lot of people go like, oh yeah, here, right? And in effect, you're putting more weight into your right hip this way, right? So here's your straight alignment. And if you want to intentionally put more weight into your left stirrup, you want to think it's left shoulder stays above left hip. You're just going to go in a little bit minimally this way, right? And that in itself, in motion, has a huge sort of impact on your horse. If you want your horse to leg yield or to, half pass in the lateral movements, all those things come into play, and you can't make a mistake with them. Otherwise, your horse will never move fluidly to one side or another in the lateral movements, right? But if you want to put a little bit more weight into your left seat bone, by just shifting a little bit this way, and I'm exaggerating, I could make it like this, and then you're going to tip up perhaps a little bit on your forward rotating pelvis structure so that your seat bone is a tiny little bit more pointy. That tells your horse, oh, she wants to go sideways, and my haunches might want to come over a little bit, because those are the buttons for haunches in, right? Combined with, of course, the rest of all the many different things that you have to think about, right? But so those are the main, I want to say, things of that you can think about and that you can tune into when you're riding, and just say, where's my weight? When you have any kind of weird sort of static in your reception where you feel like your horse is just not listening to you, and we always think, oh, they're not listening, but maybe they can't hear what you're saying. So one last thing, our head has such a big impact also. We many times, think about so many different things, and our head has suddenly a little bit of a life of its own. And many riders find themselves, as they want to go to the right, they look over there, although they're riding on this line here, right? And that says to the horse, oh, more weight this way, and they're gonna want to, drift that way for whatever reason you might not be aware of, right? So on linear patterns, look straight through your horse's ears. Always imagine one or two horses in front of you that you're following, or you can imagine a stream of light that outlines the pattern that you want to ride, that you're looking ahead onto, and use your turning of the head strategically in the shoulder in. You're looking straight down the long side when you sit a little bit to the outside and your horse's shoulders are displaced inward. This, combined with your outside seat bone weight, looking straight ahead, let's say shoulder in to the right, will anchor your horse's hind end on the track. It will tell the horse, just with that little bit of a turn of your head, that you're not going to go straight this way, right? And same thing with half pass, same thing with leg yield if you come down the center lines. Look at the points that you want to reach, the letters or the imaginary places that you pick, and you have suddenly a whole different little added benefit that the horse will become suddenly more willing. You say, oh, it's not that hard. Right? So I think that's all I wanted to cover right now, just a little refresher and a reminder. Your hands don't need to fix everything. Your legs are, your seat, your, all these different things. Your shoulders have to come, of course, into play and support all of these things that I just talked about. But the weight aids are surprisingly little talked about, or very few clinicians or trainers that I've seen mention the weight aids even. And either they assume that the rider knows them and uses them anyway, or sometimes you have situations too where riders that are very advanced don't even feel consciously what they're doing, and that's why they're not addressing it when they're teaching. Anyway, I'm not like that. I like to spell everything out, and so I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and we'll talk some more about other things very soon. Thank you so much, and happy riding. Good girl.